Hello everyone, welcome to the world of Lean Six Sigma. I am Mohit Sharma, your mentor and coach on Lean Six Sigma issues and problems. This video is the continuation of my last video which I created last week. In that video, I have spoken about the toolbox or the tools that are used in define and measure phase of DMAC methodology. Now we are going to learn some of these tools which are going to be used in the analyze, improve and control phase of DMAC. So let's begin. The first one is normality chart and the run chart. So maybe I'll go to Minitab and I show you how to create a normality chart. So I have time data in column C1. I want to check what is the normality of this data. For that, I will go to Stat, Basic Statistics and Graphical Summary. In Graphical Summary, I will enter time and I will click OK. So the p-value of this particular graph is greater than 0.05. You can see this value is 0.332. It means my data is normally distributed. So if the p-value is greater than 0.05, it means the data is normally distributed. So why it is done and how it is done, the detailed videos are there on my channel, so you can watch them. So the next one is called run chart. So we go to Stat, Quality Tool and Run Chart. If you go here and you select in the single column, you select time, and in the subgroup size you select 1 and you click OK. So it gives you the clusters, mixtures, trends and oscillations p-values. All these p-values should be greater than 0.05. So you have to remember it is 0.05. So it is not 0.5, it is 0.05. All these p-values are greater than 0.05 to say that my data is stable. Data stability means there are no special causes. I can go ahead and work with data. I can go ahead and do some analysis and take some assumptions on this particular data. These are the first two tools in the analyze phase that we have to use. And why we have to use, how we have to use in different project scenarios. You can watch different videos on my channel. The next tool is hypothesis testing. So we know that the y is continuous and x is discrete. So if you look at this particular graph, your y is continuous. It could be normal and non-normal. When your y is continuous and normal and your x is discrete, we use one-way ANOVA test. When your y is continuous and non-normal and x is discrete, we use Moore's median test. When your y is discrete and your x is also discrete, we use chi-square test. And when your y is continuous and your x is continuous, we use simple linear regression. When your y is discrete and your x is continuous, we use logistics regression. So all these tests, there are separate videos on my channel. So you can go in and learn in detail about these particular hypothesis tests. The aim of this video is to just tell you about what are the kind of tools that are used in the analyze phase. So hypothesis testing is one of the tools that is being used in the analyze phase. Friends, you can buy my authored books on Amazon. My first book is 8 Steps to Problem Solving, which talks about Six Sigma concepts. And my second book is Continuous Improvement, the Lean Way, which talks about the lean concepts. Let's move on to the improve phase. The first tool is called YY analysis. So you write down your significant X which you have identified through your hypothesis tests, and then you start asking why. The answer to the first question becomes the second question. Identify root cause with the help of 5 whys. So you got caught speeding. First why was asked, why you were speeding. The answer was that I am getting late for work. And the next why was asked, why was you getting late for work? So the answer is I got up late. So this answer, which is to the first why, becomes the question for the next why. Why you got up late? Alarm clock did not work. Why your alarm clock did not work? Because the batteries were flat. Why the batteries were flat? Because I forgot to replace them. This is the final root cause, and now you have to find out the solution to this particular problem. Get an alarm clock that plugs into the mains, or even replace the batteries at set intervals before they run out. While identifying root cause to a particular problem, you may get to the root cause in fifth why, and in some cases you may get that in the third why, or in some cases you may get that in seventh why. But the thumb rule says that 95% of the times you will get it in the fifth why. And that is why this term 5 why analysis is used. Otherwise, it is also known as YY analysis. If you try and find out the solution to this problem at the second Y itself, when the person said he got up late, the solution to that would be you have to get up in time. And that is not actually the root cause of the problem. The root cause of the problem was the batteries which he was not able to replace in the alarm clock. And to reach to that point, you have to ask these further three whys. In all, the root cause identification to this particular problem happened in 5 whys. And that is how you reach almost to the fifth why when you get your solution, which is actionable item that you. This is YY analysis. That is another tool that has been used uh, in the improve phase of DMAG methodology to identify the solutions to significant X's. Next tool is called 4W1H. The solutions are written here, then what is to be done, when it is to be done, where it is to be done, who will do it, and how it has to be done. For example, 4W1H. How to define implementation plan through 4W1H. During the improve phase of any Six Sigma project, we have to implement certain things or certain ideas. That is when this tool can be used. What is to be done? Training for 2 hours is to be done. Where it is to be done? Auditorium in the main building. By when it is to be done? 25th August, and the start time is 10 a.m. Who will do that? Mr. ABC will do that. And how it will be done? As per the training plan and agenda, it would be done. The next tool is FMEA. FMEA stands for Failure Mode Effect Analysis, in which you identify the failure mode here, and the next thing is the severity of the failure mode, the occurrence of the failure mode, and detectability of the failure mode. FMEA, there is a rating scale. There are terminologies called severity, occurrence, and detection. These terminologies have their different rating scales. All these three rating scales are from 1 to 10. Under the severity scale, there is a criteria identified to define the rating for a particular failure mode. Severity scale of 10 means injure a customer or employee. Severity scale of 9 means be illegal or a compliance issue. Severity rating of 8 means render product or service outfit for use. Severity scale of 7 means cause extreme customer dissatisfaction. Likewise, for severity rating of 1, it would be unnoticed and not affect the performance. Similarly, for occurrence scale, if the failure mode is occurring more than once per day, then a rating of 10 is given. And if the failure mode is occurring once in 6 to 100 years, rating of 1 is given. Next is detection scale. So detection scale is opposite of occurrence and severity scale. More the detection, lesser the score. Detection rating of 10 is given when defect caused by failure is not detectable, and a detection rating of 1 is given when defect is obvious and can be kept from affecting the customer. Next terminology used is RPN, which is risk priority number. And the formula to calculate RPN is severity into occurrence into detection. For example, 5 severity, 5 occurrence, and 5 detection will give 125 as RPN score. Any failure mode whose RPN score is greater than 100 should be taken up and worked upon. During FMEA, if the RPN score of two failure modes are similar, then the failure mode with greater severity score is to be prioritized. In the control phase, the first tool used is called the control plan. It is similar to your 4W1H, but you also check these particular solution implementations at a particular frequency, and there is somebody who is assigned this responsibility to check. For example, 5% of transactions have to be monitored daily is a solution. If the assigned person fails to check those 5% cases, then somebody who is the boss or maybe an assigned supervisor has to check this on a particular frequency so that this doesn't miss. So if we do not put this control in the end, the process could fail, and if the process fails, the entire improvements which we have brought in for maybe last 2-3 months will go back to square one. Like we will again have those errors in the system. There are control charts. There are two types of data that we have spoken about. One is called continuous and one is discrete. The control chart is a graph used to study how a process changes over time. A control chart always has a center line for the average and the upper line for the upper control limit and a lower line for the lower control limit. So we can call it a time series plot with control limits. Basically a run chart with control limits. These control limits are plus minus 3 standard deviation from the center line. As we know that our data is of two types, one is continuous and one is discrete. When our data is continuous, we use IMR chart, X bar R chart and X bar S charts. When our subgroup size is 1, we use IMR chart. When our subgroup size is between 2 to 8, we will use X bar R chart. And when our subgroup size is greater than 8, we use X bar S chart. What is a subgroup size? I will take an example to help you understand what is subgroup size. If you have 8 people in your team and you collect one data point from all 8 of them every day, then the subgroup size is 1. If you collect 2 data points from each individual every day, then the subgroup size is 2. If you take 9 data points from each individual, the subgroup size becomes 9. So if your subgroup size is 1, you use IMR chart, which is individual moving range chart. And if it is 2 to 8, then you use X bar R chart, which is called X bar and range chart. And if you take subgroup size as greater than 8, then you use X bar S chart, which is known as X bar and standard deviation chart. Let us move to discrete data. When the data is discrete, we need to look at two things: whether the customer is measuring us on defects or defectives, or whether we have constant lot size or variable lot size. What is constant and variable lot size? So for example, customer is asking you that I will monitor 5% whatever you produce in 1 month. For example, you action 500 transactions, the customer will monitor only 25 transactions. Next month you did 1000 transactions, they will monitor 50 transactions. So this is variable lot size. Every month your lot size is varying. The constant lot size is when customer has said, let how many transactions you process in 1 month, I will check 50 transactions only. Whether you process 1000 transactions, they'll check 50. You process 1100, they'll check 50 transactions. So this is constant lot size. The difference between defects and the defective: you can have one or more defect in a unit, so that unit becomes defective units. So in case we are measured on defects and a constant lot size, we use C chart. If defects and variable lot size, we use U chart. Defectives and constant lot size, we use NP chart. Defectives and variable lot size, we use P chart. And the last one is the risk mitigation. So whenever you see the control plan is failing, there are risks which crop up. So you need to identify which are these risks, what is the likelihood, medium, low or high occurrence of this risk, and what is the impact, low, medium and high. And if it is high impact and high likelihood of happening, so you create a strong mitigation strategy for that particular failure or particular risk. Friends, so what we have spoken about is there are 5 phases in DMAC methodology: define, measure, analyze, improve and control. And there are commonly used tools in those 5 phases that we have discussed in this particular video. I hope you like this video, and if you really like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share this with your friends. I will see you in my next upcoming video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.